supported by the UN Security Council.
Of course, it is always preferable in these circumstances to have the full backing of the United Nations Security Council, but I have to say what matters most of all is that any action we would take would both be legal and would help protect our country and our people right here.
PM Cameron then making that statement during Prime Minister's question time in the House of Commons. Let's get more on it, reaction to it. Polly Boyker's in London for us. Hi there, Polly. What prompted that remark of Mr Cameron? How was it received?
Well, good but not essential was his essential message about the UN Security Council's backing of any British action in Syria. And the reason for that is because of Russia's potential veto at the Security Council. Russia says that any military action in Syria without the invitation of the Syrian government would be wrong. And David Cameron says that he doesn't want to be held hostage to that view and to Russia's potential veto, which is why he says that any British action without UN backing would still be legal, and it's necessary in order to protect the UK. In terms of reaction, well, of course, it has already roused concern among some politicians here in Britain. One Scottish MP said that it was disappointing that the Prime Minister seems happy to ignore the need for a UN resolution, and he said that it sounds like Blair and Iraq all over again. So there is already talk of the dangers of acting without UN approval. And as this was being discussed in Parliament, one other MP also drew the Prime Minister's attention to the fact that a recent poll here shows that 52% of the British public think that any action in Syria needs to be coordinated with other countries and backed by the UN. But, of course, the United Nations isn't David Cameron's only obstacle when it comes to getting the green light to military action in Syria. Parliament is his first hurdle here, and the government famously lost the vote on whether the UK should bomb Syria back in 2013. But the Prime Minister has recently indicated that he might be willing to go ahead even without Parliament's approval this time around. Let's take a listen.
It is clear to me that the British Parliament, reflecting the views of the British people, does not want to see British military action. I get that, and the government will act accordingly.
But I've said very clearly, if there are British interests at stake, we will act and take immediate action and then report to Parliament afterwards.
Well, so contradictory statements there from the Prime Minister. But one thing that is clear is that he is determined to get the question of UK military action in Syria back on the table. The UK is already bombing IS targets in Iraq. David Cameron says it doesn't make sense that the RAF has to respect an international border that is no longer recognised by jihadi fanatics who are hell-bent on attacking the UK. So the emphasis here is very much on Britain's safety. Ever since Friday's attacks in Paris, David Cameron has resurrected this issue. And of course, so many people here in Britain have been showing solidarity towards the people in Paris, that the Prime Minister is going to be keen to remind them that France has already stepped up its bombing campaign against Islamic State in Syria, and the French government has said it would be appreciated if Britain would join the fight.
Yeah, OK. Polly, thanks for the update there from London. Thank you for being with us too. It's just after 5:20 in the evening here, Moscow time. I'm back just after a very quick break where we report on how hack attacks in the US are increasing drastically with worrying consequences. And it seems in a new report out, the government isn't hitting back hard enough. Hope you can stay with me. Again, let's go back to our top story, tracking what's happening in Paris today. French police have raided a Paris suburb, Saint Denis, in the search for suspects of Friday's atrocities. RT America's Simone Del Rosario is there too. She can bring us up to speed on the latest. It's been another day, hasn't it, of police activity. Where are we as we speak now this hour, then?
Kevin, a little bit of police activity. This was a terrifying way for this neighborhood to wake up in the morning. This whole city still on edge from Friday's attacks, and then to be woken up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning with the sound of gunshots, of explosions. It turned out to be grenades. There are police and military people all over this north suburb of Saint Denis and as well in Paris as they walk around. Now, part of what happened in that raid this morning, within the area of the apartment that they were trying to search, some of the people were evacuated early this morning. Others were told they had to stay locked down in their apartments, and this lasted several hours. Up until about 1 o'clock is when it was cleared, but the area was still barricaded down. I'll tell you, I saw a man who came out to open his front door, and he was met by a police officer staring down the barrel of a gun. The police officer in shield and had the gun pointed at him, told him to get back inside. This is the kind of scenario we're seeing here in Paris and the suburbs as they are on heightened alert between these raids and all of the extra activity here in Paris. There was a false alarm the other night that scared people, but this activity, the neighbors that I talked to, being woken up to those sounds, they were very, very fearful of what was going on in their neighborhood. And one man actually told me that walking around Saint Denis, he's scared because sometimes he sees someone and he looks at them and wonders if they are a terrorist. These people were not believed to be in Paris. That's what authorities had told us just yesterday, that they thought that they had left Paris. So to find out that they are still here, that they are taking shelter in some apartments here in their neighborhoods, it's really putting a lot of people here on edge, not only in Saint Denis but in Paris as well. Their livelihood has certainly changed since the attack. A lot of military presence, heavily armed people, not only up here because of today's raid, but everywhere in Paris you walk, there are people that are heavily armed, police and military here in Paris. It's putting a lot of people on edge as we continue to move forward and find the attackers from Friday night's terrorist activity.
Yes, there's such a lot of fear in what is such a beautiful city. So sad, isn't it? Thanks for the update there. We appreciate it. If you're waiting for our report about US cyber attacks and what the government's not doing about it over there, sorry we couldn't bring it to you this hour. We'll have time for next hour, though, I promise you that. After the break here, hope you can stay with us for Going Underground.